Hello everyone, my name is Kendall Payne. Today I will be informing you all about poverty throughout the United States. 39.7 million Americans live in poverty every day, and 42% of college students live in poverty as well. Because of the majority of you are college students, I will be discussing my preparation and presentation process to ensure this information resonates with you. I will compare 3 different locations that possess different levels and circumstances of poverty. One being a place that I have personal experiences with, another being a location with the highest level of poverty in the U.S., and the last one being very close to home for all of us. Presenting this information to young college students can be rather difficult at times because there is a chance that half of them, referencing to the 42%, have personal experiences with this subject and the other half does not understand those living conditions. I'm going to ask a question and I want all of you to reflect. How many of you use the phrase, "I'm poor," or "I look homeless"? Well, the truth is that we've all spoken this way before, but don't feel guilty, though it is important to know what is behind the words poor and homeless before we use them so loosely to describe our lifestyles that do not even begin to mirror the life of those in poverty. So before we go any further, what is poverty actually? By definition, poverty is the state of being extremely poor or the state of being inferior in quality or sufficient in amount. Some circumstances surrounding poverty include lower class individuals, multiple jobs, minimum wage, homelessness, physical and mental health disabilities, and no affordable health care options. Then there's what is considered below poverty. This also includes homelessness, and all of these circumstances can potentially be caused by substandard housing, addiction, physical and mental health disabilities, inadequate nutrition and child care, no health care, unsafe environments in communities, and lack of job opportunities. Resources amongst poverty. On a more optimistic note, there are many resources offered to those who do suffer these circumstances. These resources include SNAP, which stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This program offers food stamps, which helps individuals to stretch their food budget and still afford healthier meal options at the same time. Then there is EITC, which stands for Earned Income Tax Credit. This is a refundable tax credit for low to moderate income working individuals and couples, geared specifically towards those with children. There are also organizations like the Child Care and Development Fund, which provides assistance to low to moderate income families that need help with child care due to work and school conflicts. There also are a number of shelters located in large cities that help job finding, clothing, feeding, and providing temporary safe places. A specific example of a very useful resource that I will explain more later is called the Dream Center. Despite all of these resources in the U.S., ultimately, the economy encourages employment as a #1 solution to fix the decrease in poverty. Now, we're going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about poverty in what is now our home, Lawrence, Kansas. Bear with me, I'm about to throw a ton of numbers at you. With that, the median income here in Lawrence is $49,297 with a 21.8% poverty rate. 14.4% are children, 13.5% are women, 10.2% are men, and 26.1% are African American, and lastly, 10.2% are white. With that, yet only 3.6% of the population here are unemployed. This means that people are trying and are working, yet they're still living in poverty. I'm just going to assume that we've all made a trip down to Mass Street, and if not, it can be found right in between Vermont Street and New Hampshire Street. This is where I have personally experienced some extreme levels of poverty here in Kansas. There is one certain man that is very well known amongst the locals, and his name is Dennis. I have never had a personal conversation with Dennis, but some of his demographics include long hair, dark clothing, and he's always pushing a stroller with a baby doll inside. Dennis likes to go into stores and socialize with workers and customers. He suffers from some mental disabilities and homelessness, but he still manages to survive each day. Lawrence is a much smaller case compared to the state of Mississippi. It has the highest poverty rate, which is 19.7%, with the median income of $23,121. 26.7% of poverty is made up of children, 21.1% is women, 15.5% is men, 12.1% is white, and 31.3% is African American. And only 5.1% of those people are unemployed. Most of the poverty in Mississippi is caused by unsafe living conditions in low-income areas, and a much different, yet still as important case involving poverty would be Skid Row in Los Angeles, California. California is ranked 29th in the country for its poverty rates, which is 41.8%. A lot of these circumstances are caused by drug and alcohol addiction, along with physical and mental health disabilities as well. Specifically in Skid Row, 17.8% of poverty is children, 13.8% are women, 10.7% are men, and 12.1% are white, and 20.9% are African American. Of this, even though the majority is considered below poverty or homeless, still 4.8% are employed. These numbers should give you an idea of what to imagine the scene to be like on Skid Row. I have visited Skid Row on 3 different occasions, all of which have been completely different, yet I left with the same humbling feeling each time. The difference between poverty on Skid Row and Lawrence or Mississippi is that it is more of a genuine community. People stay there and do not want to leave because they've built a home, a family, and a life there. I have many experiences where an individual has shared their story and warmed my heart despite the terror or reality of Skid Row. It is truly terrifying. I saw women dancing naked for cigarettes, children barefoot, starving, and lost, people doing drugs and using the restroom freely and in the open. I will never forget the mark that place left on my heart and the perspective it set on my mind. This is where the Dream Center circles back around. It is a faith-based organization that encourages spiritual healing amongst victims of sex trafficking, drugs, alcohol, prostitution, eviction, job loss, abuse, and many more. They provide free housing, therapy, rehabs, and support those that are willing to accommodate. When I was on Skid Row for the first time, we ran into a middle-aged woman with 2 small children who had just arrived there earlier that day. It was well known that a woman is raped within the first 8 hours of arriving there. She was terrified, and we were able to find her a safe place to spend the night at the Dream Center. As a college student myself, when presenting to a college-level audience, I found it very important to be as reliable as possible. This provides comfort and willingness from the audience to really engage and stay involved with me as a speaker. Poverty is a subject that affects people of all races, genders, cultures, and ages, which most colleges are made up of, which is why it is important to know how to talk about this subject to other people. Doing so, you want to make sure you exclude any biased remarks because it is a very sensitive matter and you never know who it may offend. You must keep a professional demeanor, project your voice, and maintain direct eye contact. You want to be very intentional. I am in no way telling you whether or not the economy is right or wrong for how they've handled this topic of poverty in the United States, or that you should do more or less to prevent an increase in poverty in the U.S. The purpose of this presentation was to simply inform you all about the different levels of poverty in Lawrence, Mississippi, and Skid Row. Now you know how income rates relate to poverty levels depending on location, how demographics play their part, and what exactly poverty is. You also know about poverty that surrounds your everyday life right here in Lawrence, Kansas, and what impact you have or could potentially have. My hope is that you have taken this information and let it help your decision of what is right and wrong as far as poverty in the U.S. goes. Thank you for listening.